introduce Luis. The program has a short bio sketch on each of our speakers, so I want to go into a lot of his background. Suffice to say that for 3 years, he has shared his enthusiasm and motivation with the Pikes Peak region. He jump-started this into the forming of the Pikes Peak Outdoor Recreation Alliance. He's spoken at a number of our Heritage Series sessions. And you can't be around Luis without getting excited. I want to share with you one other thing that I picked up on Luis this morning. There is a new web-based newspaper called the Colorado Sun. There was an article this morning about Luis being in Puerto Rico in September regarding developing their outdoors industry. It mentions the fact that Panama would like to become next. So you're never sure where Luis is. He's here on a steamboat or Puerto Rico, so please help me welcome Luis.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me. Great introduction. A little clarification for the international journey. Puerto Rico had been paying such close attention to what states were doing regarding the outdoor recreation economy that after the hurricane last year, and them trying to understand how to diversify their economy and look at various options, that's literally when we got the call. Is there anything that Colorado's doing? Because it seems there's this magic, not only in Colorado but in the United States regarding our economy, and could this actually help with our economic recovery from the hurricane? So it's a pretty extraordinary thing that an economy from even just 5 or 6 years ago was really considered a part-time seasonal base, has really emerged into this deeper understanding of the economies of scale, how many jobs we impact, we create, and we represent. And now, moving into the future with 13 states with versions of my office, what does that impact represent politically? So what I want to do today is walk through some of the things that we've been focused on and doing in the last 3.5 years. It's amazing to think it's only been that long. And the operational tempo, not only for us, but for the industry at large, and especially for the Pikes Peak region, I think has been extraordinary. But before I get to that, in my hands here, I've been handed a polling question, which hopefully you guys have all practiced this. So this is going to be the next one for you. And the question is, choose 2 factors you believe people consider most in relocating to the Pikes Peak region. Again, choose 2 factors you believe people consider most in relocating to the Pikes Peak region. Don't let the fact that the outdoor industry guy is standing on stage influence your decision. Oh, wait, is that, oh, there it is. My. Are you sure I'm not influencing anything? Housing prices? That's good. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, that's interesting. Wait, oh, there you go. There it goes. This is an interesting one though, right? Because this is a conversation that we often have. How much is quality of life worth in comparison to how much you make as a wage? Are you willing to have a compromise there in terms of, well, I have a trail right outside my back door that my family can enjoy, that I can enjoy, that's well maintained, so maybe I'll earn a little bit less money for that kind of access, which we'll get to in a minute. Great, thank you. You want to kind of leave that scrolling in the background and see where we land? Okay, wonderful. So, about 3.5 years ago, this job really started as an experiment. And the only guidance Governor Hickenlooper gave when I received the offer to lead up this office was, the outdoor industry's economy is incredibly important to the state, creates a lot of jobs, don't break anything, have fun. And there really was no roadmap. And I guess I want to stay in starting today. Thank you to most of the people in this room and people that actually aren't here. As I traveled around the state for that first year, really asking the questions, what's most important to us? What should we focus on in this economy? How do we not only keep it strong, but help it grow? The support from all of the regions, clusters as I call them, for the outdoor economy, of which the Pikes Peak region is definitely one of the anchor tenants for that process. The response has been extraordinary. You've really started to ask yourself some of these questions in a thoughtful way, really trying to figure out what that balance looks like with other economies in your region. And I think the journey from that point to this has really just been validating that process. Are we pointed in the right direction? Do we have the right resources? What are we missing? And from a strategic standpoint, how can we actually elevate this to the next level moving into the future? So about 3 years ago, we formed an advisory council, and of which David Weinweber is on part of that council. And one of the things we started looking at was, if this is so important, what are the 4 or 5 or 6 or, my gosh, half a dozen or dozen lanes of work we want to focus on within this industry and within this economy? We shrunk that down to 4 distinct areas of work. And I'll talk about those in a little bit. Hopefully, we'll be able to have a Q&A dialogue to answer any questions you may have about that. So the first one, clearly because my office sits in the Office of Economic Development and International Trade, is just that, economic development. How do we take this economy, keep it vibrant, keep it strong, focus on innovation, be strategic, look in the right places in terms of recruiting, but also take care of the folks that are here. And when I say take care of the folks that are here, that is not just the for-profit ecosystem. That's also the non-profit ecosystem for the outdoor industry in our state. Did you know, little fun fact for you, that Colorado has the largest density of nonprofits focused on the outdoor industry in the United States? Kind of astounding, right? But then when you look at our economic impact numbers, and the numbers I'm going to quote for you right now are from 2014. Our new SCORP report, our Outdoor Recreation Plan report, will be announced by the governor next week on October 26th. I've gotten a sneak peek at the numbers in terms of our impact, the number of jobs and consumer spending. It makes the 2014 numbers look, frankly, ridiculous, look tiny. So hopefully you will all share that excitement and that validation next week when those numbers are announced, because the reality is it just keeps growing, and it continues to be a critical part of our economy and our ecosystem, and that nonprofit ecosystem really takes care of the backbone of the industry. So 28 billion in consumer spending, about 230,000 Colorado jobs, about 6 billion in wages and salaries. So when we really started looking at that across the ecosystem and trying to be really thoughtful about our recruiting process, this conversation began, really trying to understand what economic development meant in our world. Were wages just as important as quality of life and housing prices? And what did that mean to not only people moving here, but companies moving here? And the place where we landed was really that the blend that our industry often seeks starts on the quality of life side, and then all the other amenities come along with it. So that was an interesting flip that we began to discover. And we had a few pretty significant wins early on, medium-sized companies moving to the state, to various parts of the state. But about a year and a half ago, a conversation began in Utah around the Outdoor Retailer Show, which is a 3-day, 3 times a year event where 30,000, there's a lot of threes in there, 30,000 people per show come together to discuss the outdoor industry. It's really the place where we talk about our products, our policies, our politics, and everything else in between. And the reason why the conversation started in Utah of should the show leave was really Utah's stance on public lands. Should they be utilized in a different way in terms of protection, promotion, and preservation? And for the first time, the aha for the entire industry across the United States was, these things matter as much as the dollars and cents of development matter. And through that conversation, Colorado managed to acquire the Outdoor Retailer Show, which is now here 3 times a year. On the backside of that, there were a lot of conversations about, well, what's the feeder behind that process? Are other smaller companies starting to come to town and starting to look around? And what a lot of communities have landed on are what I call the cluster model. And the cluster model, you're seeing this in Grand Junction, in Montrose, and even in Golden, Colorado, where an anchor tenant, so in Golden, it's Yeti Cycles, in Grand Junction, it's Bonsai Design, and in Montrose, it's Mayfly Outdoors, where they acquire a large piece of property, pushed back against the outdoor amenities, move their headquarters to that piece of property, and then go about in a very strategic and thoughtful way, recruiting other brands and other industry partners to move, not just to town, but to that actual piece of land. And so you're seeing this model, not only in Colorado and those 3 places. The model actually was created in Utah, in Ogden, Utah. It's literally called the Ogden model, because I joked with the mayor of Ogden a lot about this. Back then, about 20 years ago, Ogden was a 1-horse town where the horse was seriously considering leaving. And he went out in a very thoughtful way and said, we've got all this out our back door, how do we start bringing companies to town? So through that process and being incredibly thoughtful for the clusters around the state, obviously the Pikes Peak Outdoor Recreation Alliance, PPORA, with David and Becky, has really started to thoughtfully condense and collaborate with all the players on every side of the table. Here, Vanity Fair Corporation started to pay attention to what we were doing and how we were doing it. And now with their move of their corporate global headquarters here, along with 5 major outdoor industry brands, they grow through acquisition, and the CEO has been very, very clear that they have only just begun in the context of acquiring more outdoor industry brands and moving those because their headquarters is here in Colorado. So proof positive that economic development, while it can sometimes be a little clunky and a little strange, the strategy around paying just as close attention to quality of life as to the dollars and cents of acquisitions and maintenance for our economy is critically important. So the second area of work is conservation and stewardship. And I'm going to sound like a broken record to some people in the room, and I'm looking at Susan and a few other folks. I've been incredibly clear about this over the past couple of years. Without the appropriate protection, promotion, and utilization of these resources that our economy relies on, this gigantic economic engine that we have in the outdoor industry will cease to exist, period. Now, juxtapose that with the population increases that we're seeing, not only in Colorado, but in any states that really have these outdoor industry communities that focus on selling that quality of life as much as the business that they hope to acquire and the jobs that they hope to create. And you kind of got the formula where we are right now in Colorado. And the place where we landed in talking to the Department of Tourism and other partners, Doug, where are you? Do you still have that vest on? Oh, great. Sorry, buddy. You know, we really understood that we weren't providing as much of an education as we should to the people moving to our state regarding ultimately what it means to be a Colorado. So those of you that have heard this story from me, take a nap, but those of you that haven't, hopefully you'll appreciate this. It's like you have a new neighbor that moved in across the street, and I apologize to anybody who's here from Illinois. Anybody live from Illinois? Oh, God. Somebody right across the street moves here from Chicago, a new neighbor. Right? And you're going out to pick up the mail at 11 o'clock, and you see your new neighbor walking to their car with a 2-liter bottle of Coca-Cola, wearing jeans, a t-shirt, and flip-flops, and they announce to you that they're going off to climb their first 14er. And you sit back and you think to yourself, well, that's Darwin's theory of natural selection taking over. Let's see if they make it back by dinner time. It could be really fun to see what happens. But because we're good Coloradans and we're good citizens of the state, you actually will probably stop them and talk about carrying a water bottle, not soda, comfortable closed-toed shoes, you might want to wear a raincoat, cotton kills. And by the way, I have a 14er guidebook inside. Why don't you come on in and I'll explain to you exactly where you're going. The population influx to our state is to a point that you can't talk to everybody coming here in that personal one-on-one way. And how tourism has decided to activate on this. We are the first state in the United States to have a formal relationship with Leave No Trace, which is really an organization that talks about those ethics and those principles of taking care of those natural resources. So for the first time, we feel like come here, move here, visit here, whatever it is that you want to do. But if you do that, here's the responsibility code that we have as Coloradans. So that's really the first step that we're moving towards identifying the conservation stewardship, modeling, stressing the importance of that to our economic engine, and moving that down the field. So the third area is education and workforce training. And you know, you're lucky enough to have a state school here, to have Colorado College here, to have an amazing footprint within academia in your region. But the conversation in this respect was ultimately, if we truly are a multi-billion-dollar economy responsible for millions of jobs, how is the next generation of our talent pipeline being educated? What does that education look like? You talk to business owners like David and Becky, and you know, most of us in the outdoor industry have organically found our way. We've sort of done all kinds of odd jobs and maybe gotten a little bit of formalized education, and lo and behold, you're all of a sudden you're the CEO of a company, and do you have the right skills to be successful? And I think academia is for the first time waking up to the fact that there is a base of potential students out there that are really interested in charting a course through academia to get them into the outdoor industry. So I want to validate this in the room, and I'm not going to do it with this thing. How many of you are doing a job currently that directly connects to what you went to school for? Raise your hands. About 20% urban. Yeah. And you know, in the outdoor industry, it's no different. You have people, I meet people all the time that say things like, you know, I got my MBA, I went into finance, but all I wanted to do was run a mountain biking company. That's all I wanted to do. And I finally made enough money, and I just got so tired of it, and I found a job that was less paid, that was my passion. What we're trying to tell folks just entering the academic process is that you can have a good paying job within this economy. You can be an entrepreneur and innovator within this economy, and academia will meet you where you are to provide the things that you need most to be able to serve that process. Now, the last one I'll talk to you before we open up the Q&A is new for us. And it was really brought about by momentum that we were seeing in other countries, frankly. So let me ask you a question. Let's say, hypothetically, that you're a stressed out executive. I'm sure it doesn't apply to anybody in this room at all. You're all calm, relaxed people, right? Because you live here. Well, let's say as a stressed out executive, you go to the doctor one day and say, Doc, I can't take it anymore, I gotta take a break. I'm sure there's a pill out there that'll be helpful if I take it twice a day to ease the pain. And the doctor, instead of prescribing you a course of medication, says, I'm gonna give you this Fitbit. I know you live close to a national forest or a national park. I want you to wear this wearable in that park 3 hours a day for 2 weeks. I want you to bring that Fitbit back to me so I can validate the data, see how many hours you spent in the green space, see via GPS exactly where you went. That's your prescription. When you come back, we'll have a conversation, and then and only then will we talk about you being able to go back to work. Sounds like an amazing prescription. Anybody want that prescription right now? Yeah. And you may think it's a little crazy, but yet in Australia, in Japan, and Spain has actually brought this online. That's exactly what the healthcare industry is allowed to do right now. It translates to mean forest bathing. And fortunately, in the United States, the data sets that are coming out of working with veterans, believe it or not, out of the University of California at Berkeley, mostly around PTSD and traumatic brain injuries, the results are in. This is not a feel-good thing. There's actually data and science behind the fact that spending time, not outside necessarily in a concrete jungle, but around trees, around open space, around water, without technology, actually can rewire your brain. So the focus that we have right now in this quadrant is really, what is our conversation with the healthcare industry in the United States? You know, historically I laugh a little bit at this because I'm sure we've all seen pictures of the hot springs in Glenwood and some of the other stories about presidents, kings, and queens visiting us in Colorado back in the late 1800s and early 1900s because of our fresh mountain air, our bubbling hot springs, and that's how you got healthy, right? And to be in this place with the healthcare industry right now, to be a part of this conversation, realizing that these natural resources yet again can play a role in that dialogue, frankly, is quite an exciting time. Because now not only do you have academia paying attention to this, but you have insurance providers and healthcare companies also asking themselves the same questions of how they can actually validate some of these processes. So these are 4 areas of work that we're really trying to pay attention to. It's been an extraordinary journey over the last 3.5 years. And what I'd like to do at this point is just really open it up to any of you out there. No question is too big, no question is too small, and I'm happy to take any and all that you may have.